I've had some concerns about whether or not how Cody's kind of a Babe Ruth. He's either striking out or he's out of the park.
What if everything we believed about sister wives was a carefully crafted illusion? What if the woman painted as the peacemaker was quietly seizing the crown while the others were left with ashes? Janelle gave up her retirement. Christine gave up her sanity. Mary gave up her hope. But Robyn took it all and never looked back. This isn't a story about plural love. It's a story about quiet domination, rewritten memories, and a throne built on sacrifice. And now, the truth can no longer be buried. She didn't cry about it. She didn't beg for recognition. Janelle handed over her 401k with the quiet resolve of someone who believed in something bigger than herself. In the story of sister wives, that kind of sacrifice wasn't uncommon, but this one was different. This wasn't just money. It was her future, her safety net. Years of hard work, compound interest, and cautious planning, all transferred without hesitation into a shared family vision that never really included her. They said it was about unity, about building a legacy, one big home, one shared property, one dream. But dreams, when shared unequally, become illusions, and Janelle's illusion cost her everything. She watched her savings dissolve into blueprints, credit checks, and dirt lots. There was never a ceremony, no signatures of gratitude, no discussion of repayment, just an unspoken expectation. The wives would contribute what they could, and the family would rise together. Except not everyone was sacrificing. Not everyone was giving something up. While Janelle emptied her retirement account to fund the land and keep the financial wheels turning, Robyn stayed silent. No visible contribution, no mention of personal risk. And when the dust settled, it was Robyn who had the keys to a sprawling $2 million home. A house not just built with money, but with the quiet trust and financial blood of a woman who was never allowed to be the favorite. That trust was never mutual. Robyn didn't have to open her bank statements. She didn't have to wrestle with whether she'd be able to retire or pay for emergencies. She didn't have to wonder where she'd sleep if it all fell apart, because it never would. Not for her. She was protected, insulated. Cody made sure of that. And Janelle, she was told to hold the vision, to believe in the plan, to be patient. What makes it worse isn't just the loss, it's the silence that followed it. No open acknowledgement, no recognition of what was given up. Janelle didn't ask for praise, but the complete absence of it, especially from Robyn, stings louder than any thanks ever could. Robyn didn't just fail to show gratitude. She pretended the sacrifice never happened at all. And that's where betrayal finds its deepest cut. Not in the money, but in the rewriting of memory, the quiet erasure of the person who held everything together when it was all falling apart. Janelle gave up her future, believing it would hold the family together. But all it did was build a house she'd never live in on land she'd never own. For a woman who never even said thank you. While Christine clipped coupons and Janelle figured out how to stretch a meal for 7 with just a pack of chicken thighs, Robyn sat calmly in the center of the storm, untouched, unmoved, and utterly protected. She wasn't just unbothered. She was untouched by the kind of stress that aged the other wives, mortgage deadlines, credit issues, grocery budgets. None of it seemed to land on her doorstep. If it did, you wouldn't know, because Robyn's defining trait wasn't her generosity or leadership. It was her detachment. She talked often about doing her part, about teamwork, about pitching in. But when the bank accounts were strained and sacrifices had to be made, it was Robyn who maintained her stillness. While Mary downsized and Christine moved into modest rentals, Robyn moved forward with a boutique, a dream project, an emotional endeavor, one she described as part of her contribution to the family, but that never actually supported the family. MSWC was always a personal investment disguised as a group venture. No profit, no return, no transparency, just cheerful photo-oots and vague promises. And as the others counted pennies, Robyn decorated, picked furniture, filled rooms with designer rugs and hand-carved chairs. While Janelle couldn't even afford a second rental without Cody's disapproval, Robyn was living in a custom-curated home that doubled as her fortress. Financial hardship wasn't something she endured, it was something she observed from a distance, like a spectator. That distance became painfully literal when she appeared on screen wearing a Canada Goose coat, a luxury item with a four-figure price tag, a coat built for Arctic expeditions, not mild Arizona winters. Christine had been canning to save on produce. Janelle had forgone vacations. Mary shopped clearance racks. But Robyn, she walked into camera frame, wrapped in a $1,000 garment, fully insulated physically, emotionally, and economically from the reality the other wives were living. And she didn't flinch. No explanation, no context. Just that same calm expression, that same performance of humility, that same subtle message. This doesn't affect me the way it affects you. She never seemed to notice the tension. Or maybe she did and didn't care. Because unlike the other women, Robyn never had to justify her purchases, never had to answer for how she lived. She framed her choices as smart planning. She talked about being frugal, but optics don't lie, and the optics were brutal. Christine decorated with Goodwill finds. Janelle made her own jam. Mary tried to make a holiday happen with half the budget and none of the family. And while they all tightened their belts, Robyn picked out granite countertops. She didn't just survive the collapse, she styled her way through it. Mary used to decorate for every holiday, Halloween, Valentine's Day, Thanksgiving. It wasn't about the wreaths or the sparkle or even the effort. It was about holding on to family, to belonging, to hope. Her decorations weren't just seasonal, they were symbolic. A silent, persistent invitation to a family that had already stopped showing up. And the saddest part? She kept doing it for a while, even after the visit stopped. Just in case someone changed their mind, just in case someone, anyone, came through the door. But no one did. Robyn never called, never texted, never asked what time to come by or if the kids could bring cookies. And when Mary finally stopped decorating, when she finally let the silence settle in, Robyn rewrote the story on camera. She mourned the loss of tradition, claimed her younger kids missed out, acted as if the magic had been stolen from them by the other wives and their children, who, according to her, simply stopped caring. But that's not what happened. By the time Robyn started talking about the importance of keeping family traditions alive, Mary's only child had already moved out. Christine and Janelle had one preteen each. The rest were grown, building lives far from the dysfunction. The only person who actually had little ones at home, the only person who could have brought that youthful energy to a lonely living room was Robyn herself. And she didn't. She didn't drive them over to Mary's. She didn't coordinate a cookie night or ask if they could help hang ornaments. She didn't try. Instead, she waited. She observed. She chose distance and then mourned what she herself refused to preserve. Christine still cooked. Janelle still tried to make things work. Mary kept setting the stage long after the cast stopped showing up. But Robyn, she stayed back claiming emotional safety while accusing others of emotional neglect. It was passive. Then it turned into projection. Then it became something darker, something calculated. She began shaping a version of events that painted her as the lone mother still fighting for unity. The others were framed as cold, indifferent, distracted, and her tears sold it. She made it sound like they abandoned her and her children, not the other way around. But people remember, they remember how often she said no, how often she withdrew, how often she cited protocols and boundaries and then stood back while the rest tried to hold things together. It wasn't fear, it was refusal. And it wasn't emotional self-protection. It was isolation disguised as martyrdom. Robyn didn't lose the holidays. She left them behind. Then, when the emptiness became too obvious to ignore, she pointed to everyone else and said, "Look what she did." She didn't just rewrite the holidays. She rewrote history. Cody's words hung in the air like a slap, crude, jarring, and so wildly out of pocket that even longtime viewers blinked in disbelief. He'd been talking about Gabriel, his own son, and with an awkward, forced laugh, he blurted it out. Something about a pencil, about getting it wet, about hormones and chaos and the dangers of physical affection. It wasn't just tone deaf. It was something else, something darker. The kind of comment that exposes more about the speaker than the subject, because Cody Brown wasn't some wide-eyed father navigating modern parenting with naive day. He was a man who'd already admitted to premarital relationships in college, who once romanticized his own youthful rebellion as if he'd been a love-struck pilgrim, a rogue prophet seduced by sin and saved by belief. But when it came to his own children, particularly his sons, the story shifted. Suddenly, there was no room for exploration, no compassion, no guidance, just shame, sarcasm, and judgment masquerading as concern. The comment wasn't just vulgar, it was laced with projection. Cody wasn't warning his kids about moral danger. He was reliving his own guilt and throwing it at them, as if his past mistakes gave him a license to punish any behavior that mirrored them. And Gabriel, sensitive and thoughtful, didn't deserve to be the target. He wasn't reckless, he wasn't careless, he loved his girlfriend. He was seeking connection in a house that had shut the doors. But Cody reduced it all to a dirty joke, a dismissive jab that said more about his own arrested emotional maturity than anything else. And it didn't stop there. When the adult children, Gwen, Maddie, even McKeely, began to speak out, Cody's response wasn't reflection, it was retaliation. He reportedly threatened legal action. There were whispers of clauses buried in TLC contracts that could be used to punish the kids if they criticized him or Robyn. Gwen's once blistering YouTube reviews vanished. Maddie abruptly stepped away from her podcast. McKelty's tone shifted overnight, suddenly sanitized, careful, safe. No one confirmed a cease and desist. No one had to. The silence spoke volumes. It wasn't just censorship. It was fear. Fear of lawsuits, fear of conflict, fear of being cut off emotionally and financially. And behind it all, Robyn stood with that same practiced fragility, nodding softly, speaking in hushed tones, reinforcing Cody's narrative of being emotionally unsafe. It's hard to speak freely in a family where love is conditional and truth has legal consequences. But the real cost wasn't content, it was connection. These kids grew up on camera, their most private moments broadcast to millions. They didn't choose that spotlight, but they bore its heat. And now, when they finally find their voices, they're told to be quiet for the good of the family, for the brand, for the show. In the end, Cody didn't just lose his family. He silenced them. Robyn came last, but she moved like a first wife from the moment she arrived. Not with open arms or shared burdens, but with a strategic grace, a studied helplessness, and a story already in motion. She spoke the language of sisterhood, but her actions wrote another script entirely. Every gesture was cloaked in humility. Every move sounded sacrificial. But beneath the tears and the soft-spoken regret, Robyn was climbing, not into a family, but into power. She didn't clash with Janelle because Janelle wasn't a threat. Janelle asked for nothing. She gave what was needed, stayed out of fights, and never challenged Cody's affections. She was reliable, and in Robyn's world, that meant expendable, useful, easy to keep close, but never too close. And when Janelle drained her 401k to support the collective dream, Robyn quietly accepted the gift without a hint of gratitude, let alone reciprocity. That's not sisterhood, that's extraction. Mary, too, was pushed aside, not with cruelty, but with quiet dismissal. She was tolerated on camera, pied in interviews, but never invited in. She reached out to Robyn again and again, trying to form a connection, a bridge back into the family through this new wife who had Cody's attention. And Robyn, she simply didn't answer. No return calls, no visits, no invitations. It wasn't rejection, it was neglect. The kind that stings worse because it's deniable. Christine, though, was different. She had charm, she had presence, she had the children's loyalty and the audience's affection. And worst of all, she had Cody's history. Christine couldn't be ignored. She had to be outmaneuvered. And so began the slow unraveling. Private time became exclusive. Group traditions faded. Cody started pulling away, redirecting his time and his energy until what was once Christine's became Robyn's. And Christine saw it. She saw it before anyone else. That this wasn't about plural love. It was about singular control. Because Robyn wasn't building a family, she was building a throne. Each move was calculated. The legal marriage, the financial consolidation, the sympathetic camera angles, the endless emphasis on being misunderstood. The more others pulled away or broke down, the more she appeared composed, reasonable, the one holding it all together. But she wasn't. She was quietly absorbing what they left behind: money, attention, property, Cody himself, until the house she stood in was made of bones from every sister wife that came before her. And now, standing at the top, she wears the crown she never admits to wanting. But what kingdom is left? Mary is gone. Christine walked. Janelle is done. The children are distant. The legacy shattered. And yet Robyn still clings to the story. They gave up. Not me. She cries for the cameras. She mourns the collapse. But she never confronts the truth, that she was never trying to hold the family together. She was replacing it with something else entirely. Sisterhood was the mask. The throne was always the goal. In the end, this wasn't just the unraveling of a family. It was the slow coronation of a queen without a kingdom. Robyn didn't save the Brown family. She outlasted it. And now that the curtain's falling, the question isn't what happened. It's how did we not see it sooner? If this deep dive hit home, smash that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more truth they don't want aired. I'm Aria, and this is TLC The Sister Chapter, where the silence ends and the real story begins.